Duplicate which one do you want this option? Control P. No, that's not. Microsoft Picture. Duplicate कर देना तो मैं mouse is not working. अब फिर से कनेक्ट करके कोई
डुप्लीकेट
हाँ Microsoft.
ओके फाइनली हरे कृष्ण हरे जय श्री प्रभुपाद। Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Sunday Peace program. So today we will be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 11, Text 17. So first I will do the Sanskrit reading and then we all can recite. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
भ्रातव्यमेनं तदब्रवीर्यम्
तदब्रवीर्यम्
उपेक्षया भेदितमप्रमत्तः गुरुर्हरे शरणोपासनास्त्रो जहि व्यलीकं स्वयमात्ममोषम् भातृव्यमेनं तदब्रवीर्यम् उपेक्षया भेदितमप्रमत्तः गुरुर्हरे चरणोपासनास्त्रो जहि व्यलीकं स्वयमात्ममोषम् भातृव्येमं तदब्रवीर्यम् उपेक्षया भेदितमप्रमत्तः गुरुर्हरे शरणोपासनास्त्रो जहि व्यलीकं स्वयमात्ममोषम् प्रभुजी
भातृवयम् ईनं तत् अभद्रवीर्यम्
भ्रातृव्यमेनं तदब्रवीर्यम्
उपेक्षया भेदितम् अप्रमत्त
उपेक्षया भेदितमप्रमत्तः
गुरोर्हरेश्चरणोपासनास्त्रो
गुरुर्हरेश्चरणोपासनास्त्रो
याजीवलीकं स्वयम् आत्ममोषम्
जहि व्यलीकं स्वयमात्ममोषम् भ्रातृव्यमेनं तदब्रवीर्यम् उपेक्षया भेदितमप्रमत्तः गुरुर्हरेश्चरणोपासनास्त्रो जहि व्यलीकं स्वयमात्ममोषम्
भ्रातृव्यम् एनं तत् अदब्रवीर्यम्
भ्रातृव्यमेनं तदब्रवीर्यम्
उपेक्षया अधिवेदितम् अप्रमत्तः
उपेक्षया भेदितमप्रमत्तः
गुरोर्हरे चरणोपासनास्त्रो
गुरुर्हरेश्चरणोपासनास्त्रो
जहि व्यलीकं स्वयम् आत्ममोषम्
जहि व्यलीकं स्वयमात्ममोषम्
भ्रातृव्यमेनं तदब्रवीर्यम्
भ्रातृव्यमेनं तदब्रवीर्यम्
उपेक्षया भेदितमप्रमत्तः
उपेक्षया भेदितमप्रमत्तः
गुरोर्हरे चरणोपासनास्त्रो
गुरुर्हरेश्चरणोपासनास्त्रो
जहि व्यलीकं स्वयमात्ममोक्षम्
जहि व्यलीकं स्वयमात्ममोषम् भ्रातृव्यमेनं तदब्रवीर्यम् उपेक्षया भेदितमप्रमत्तः गुरुर्हरेश्चरणोपासनास्त्रो जहि व्यलीकं स्वयमात्ममोषम् Bhratravyam, the formidable enemy. Enam, this mind. Tat, that. Adhabraviryam, very, very powerful. Upekshaya, by neglecting. Adhyeditam, unnecessarily increased in power. Apramatta, one who is without illusion. Guru of the spiritual master. Hare of the supreme personality of Godhead. Charana of the lotus feet.
of the lotus feet.
Upasanastra,
Upasanastra,
applying the weapon of worshipping.
applying the weapon of worshipping.
Jahi,
Jahi,
conquer. Velikam,
Velikam,
false.
false.
Swayam,
Swayam,
personally.
personally.
Atmamosham,
Atmamosham,
which covers the constitutional position of the living entity.
which causes the constitutional position of the living entity.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. This uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Although it is not factual, it is very strong. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. O king, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do this with great care. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There is one easy weapon with which the mind can be conquered: neglect. The mind is always telling us to do this or that. Therefore, we should be very expert in disobeying the mind's orders. Gradually, the mind should be trained to obey the orders of the soul. It is not that one should obey the orders of the mind. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that to control the mind, one should beat it with shoes many times just after awakening and again before going to sleep. In this way, one can control the mind. This is the instruction of all the Shastras. If one does not do so, one is doomed to follow the dictations of the mind. Another bona fide process is to abide strictly by the orders of the spiritual master and engage in the Lord's service. Then the mind will be automatically controlled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed Srila Rupa Goswami, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavana Jiva, Guru Krishna Prasadepaya Bhakti Lata Bija. When one receives the seed of devotional service by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's real life begins. If one abides by the orders of the spiritual master, by the grace of Krishna, he is freed from the service to the mind. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यो मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saharana Lalita Shri Vishakhamvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopeka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Prabhasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we'll again take a translation. This uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Although it is not factual, it is very strong. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. O king, please try to conquer this mind with a weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do this with great care. So such an important verse and purport today is this. So in just one verse, whole the problem that we face in the material existence and the solution to that problem is mentioned in just one verse. So this chapter, actually this Jadabharata instructs King Rahugana. This is a very, very instructive chapter. So we should try to read it very carefully. There are many, many good instructions in this chapter. So we'll see some of them later also. But especially in this verse, it says that the biggest problem is the uncontrolled mind. And if we don't control the mind, it will become so powerful that it will actually take us to the hell. And then the solution is also given that with a weapon of service to the spiritual master and Lord Shri Krishna, the mind can be controlled. So the problem is also given and the solution is also given. So that's why this is a very, very important verse. So we'll see in today's class. So we'll see how mind is the eternal enemy of the living entity, how to conquer the mind, and position of the spiritual master and qualifications of the perfect guru. So again, if we see the translation, uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. If one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Although it is not factual, it is very strong. It covers the constitutional position of the soul. O King, please try to conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Do this with great care. So there are so many important points mentioned in this verse. First, we all know the mind is uncontrolled. Unless we are fixed on Krishna consciousness, the mind goes here and there, it will travel all over the universe. Everywhere, wherever you want, the mind will travel. And again, it is said it's the greatest enemy. Now this, I had some realization some days back, actually long back. So I was thinking, who is my enemy actually? So some enemy which we see in this world, like maybe some my colleague or neighbor or someone in my family or some here and there, are they my enemy? Or they might be causing some harm here and there, but are they the enemy? So then I realized, even if I don't have any of these enemies, I have a biggest enemy, which is my mind. So that mind, because it is not controlled, has actually kept us in the cycle of birth and death from millions and billions and billions of years. And it is still with us. Life after life, for eternity, that mind is with us. And if that is an uncontrolled mind, it's the biggest enemy. And why it is enemy? Because it is keeping us in the cycle of birth and death for eternity. So we have become Nitya Baddhas. Eternity, for eternity, we are in the cycle of birth and death here. And all because of uncontrolled mind. So now we can understand that how powerful enemy it is. So once we have these enemies in the material world here, so once we leave the body, all those enemies are gone. And in the next life, new one will come. But the mind always stays. It will just keep on staying and staying and staying till we conquer the mind. Until time we conquer the mind will remain as the greatest enemy, and it will bind us in this cycle of birth and death. And so we can imagine that how mind is the greatest enemy. So at every moment we are actually living with our greatest enemy. Morning till evening, in the night, in the office, wherever you go, even if you are alone, our enemy is with us. So we have to first recognize the problem. So the biggest problem is the uncontrolled mind, and that is the greatest enemy. So that's why Srila Prabhupada says here, uncontrolled mind is the greatest enemy of the living entity. And if one neglects it or gives it a chance, it will grow more and more powerful and will become victorious. Srila Prabhupada has many times said, give an inch to Maya and Maya will take a mile. So sometimes we think, itna sa hai, thoda sa I'll do here and there, sense gratification. So if we just give a small inch to Maya, Maya will take that and just make it a mile. So, and in that case, the mind becomes more and more powerful. Like it is said that, right, if we feed milk to the snake, it becomes more venomous. So, it's like feeding, sense gratification is like feeding venom to the mind. And it will become more and more powerful and powerful and powerful. And more it will be difficult for us to bring it under control. So, it is actually said, just keep it, snip it in the butt. as soon as we see the problem, just kill it there itself. So it's a very important thing. We should not entertain the mind. If we entertain the mind, it's like feeding milk to the snake, and it will become more and more venomous. So as soon as we see that mind is overpowering us, so we have to take a step back and snip it in the butt. Just there itself, stop it. And then it says it covers the constitutional position of the soul. Now, how mind covers the constitutional position of the soul? So the constitutional position of the soul is Jivera Swarupaya Krishnera Nityadas. So that's what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said. So the constitutional position of soul is we are all eternal servants of Krishna. But what has happened is because of the mind is not in control, and mind demands this and that sense gratification, we have become eternal servants of Maya. Instead of being eternal servants of Krishna, we have become eternal servants of Maya. So that's how the uncontrolled mind has covered our constitutional position. So we are the servants of Krishna, but because our mind is actually going all over the places other than Krishna, so we have forgotten our constitutional position and we have become servants of Maya. And here it is also said, now how to conquer this mind? By the weapon of service to the lotus feet of the spiritual master and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this we'll see in more detail later. And the last line, do this with great care. Now it was very surprising why Prabhupada added this line here, do this with great care. So do this with great care means that don't do any offenses, don't do any Guru Aparad, don't do any Nam Aparad. We have to be very, very careful in our sadhana, avoiding all the offenses. So because even if we are just superficially worshipping spiritual master and just superficially worshipping Krishna, but at the same time we are doing offenses, so it's like pouring the water on the fire. So it's no meaning. So that's why Prabhupada said, do this with great care. It means that avoid all the offenses very carefully. So then by the weapon of service to the spiritual master and Lord Shri Krishna, we will be able to control the mind. So now we'll see, so what is the position of mind in the living entity? So in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Indriyandi paranyahur, indriyabhya param mana, manasastu para buddhir, yo buddhir paratastu saha. The working senses are superior to dull matter, mind is higher than senses, intelligence is still higher than the mind, and the soul is even higher than the intelligence. So if we understand the position of the mind, so it will help us to conquer the mind also. So where the mind resides, who are the subordinates of the mind, who is the authority of the mind. So if we understand these points, it will help us to conquer the mind. So basically from this verse we see, senses are superior to the body as a whole. So we have this body, because of the senses we can enjoy sense gratification. So it is said that the senses are superior to dull body. If we don't have any senses, so body practically has no meaning. And mind is superior to senses, it is said here. Above the mind is the determination of intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul proper. So if you can see this picture, so this from the Katha Upanishad, the whole body is compared to a chariot. So here we see the horses are compared to senses, the reins are compared to the mind, and the driver is the intelligence, and the person who is sitting on the asana there is the soul proper. Now if you see that, assume the driver is weak, right? He's not strong. He's just a weak driver. And the horses are very strong. So where the chariot is going to go? Will it be under the control of driver? No. Chariot will go wherever it wants to go, right? Unless the driver is strong, the chariot will take us wherever the horses wants to go, right? So that's why. So here the chariot, here the driver refers to the intelligence. So basically we see that unless, and here we saw above the mind is the determination of the intelligence. So intelligence is actually superior to the mind. So mind can be controlled by the intelligence. But if the intelligence is weak, when the senses and the minds are going to take us chariot to the ditch actually, and the living entity will collapse. And so this is This is a very good analogy which Srila Prabhupada also gave in this purport about the chariot of the body. So now here you can see, right, assuming that if the intelligence becomes strong, very strong, so that it can control the lion and it can control the horses, then, and if the intelligence is governed by the soul, then the chariot will go in a direction where the soul wants it to go, not where the senses wants to take the chariot. So that's why the strong intelligence controlled by the soul is very, very important. Now the key arises, then how to develop that intelligence? So we see here, mind is superior to senses, above the mind is a determination of intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul proper. So here we see, we'll come to that point, that how to actually make intelligence strong so it can control the senses, so our chariot can stay on the right track instead of going here and there. Now, let's not underestimate the problem that we are facing, the uncontrolled mind. Arjuna was a very, very intelligent living being. Do you agree? He understood Bhagavad Gita in how much time? 45 minutes to 1 hour, or maybe 45 minutes. And we are reading Bhagavad Gita for how many years? And how many verses we have understood? He understood whole Bhagavad Gita, 700 verses, and properly understood. Not just he has to realize the whole Bhagavad Gita, and we are still struggling to understand few basics of Bhagavad Gita. So we can compare our intelligence from the Arjuna's intelligence. Now what he is saying in the 6th chapter, the mind is the restless, turbulent, obstinate and very strong of Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. So Arjuna also acknowledges the difficulty in controlling the mind. He says that controlling the wind might be easier, but controlling the mind is very difficult. I cannot control the mind. So basically we have to understand that we are facing a very formidable enemy in the form of the uncontrolled mind. So now we can ask, if intelligence is superior to mind, then how come mind can overcome intelligence? And how come mind can overcome soul also? How can it become so powerful? So Srila Prabhupada gave example in this verse. Say, take a case, somebody got a very acute infection in the body, right? So sometimes vaccine also will not be effective, because it may be too late already. Infection has grown so strong, so even though the vaccine is powerful than infection, the vaccine cannot cure the infection anymore, and because the infection has grown very strong. So this is how we can understand, even though the intelligence is superior to mind, but if we let the mind go loose and don't take it under control, then the mind has a potential to overcome intelligence. So that's why we have to be very, very careful. This example given by Prabhupada, that as an acute infection may surpass the efficacy of medicine. So here it is said, intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence, as an acute infection may surpass the efficacy of medicine. So the simile used here is appropriate. One cannot capture the blowing wind, and it is even more difficult to capture the turbulent mind. So we need to understand that actually we are facing very difficult enemy. And Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, no, so we'll come to this verse later. So Krishna also says in 6th chapter, Uddhenat atmanatmanam, na atmanam avsade, atmevi atmano bandhur, atmevi vipur atmana. One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is a friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. And then Krishna says, Bandhur atmat manas tasya, yen atmev atmana jitaha, anatmanastu shatrutve, vartet atmeva shatruvat. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of the friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So these are the two important verses in the Bhagavad Gita which actually talks about that if we fail to control the mind, so we are at every moment staying with the greatest enemy. And by Krishna's grace, if we conquer the mind, so mind will become our best of the friends and it will help us progress in Krishna consciousness, instead of degrading us with Krishna consciousness. So here we see in these points are proper. Unless the mind is controlled, the practice of yoga is simply a waste of time. One who cannot control his mind lives always with the greatest enemy, and thus his life and the mission are spoiled. The constitutional position of the living entity is to carry out the order of the superior. As long as one's mind remains an unconquered enemy, one has to serve the dictations of lust, anger, avarice, illusion, etc. But when the mind is conquered, one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictation of the personality of Godhead, who is situated within the heart of everyone as Paramatma. One has to abide by superior dictation. When one's mind is fixed on the superior nature, he has no alternative but to follow the dictation of the Supreme. The mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. The effect of controlling the mind is that one automatically follows the dictation of Paramatma Supersoul. So what actually Prabhupada has said in this purport is, the mind must admit some superior dictation and follow it. See, mind is not independent. A mind is like a child. Child cannot act independently. Child always act under the supervision of parents. Right? So mind cannot act independently. Mind always needs some superior authorities dictation. So then the mind can follow. Now here Srila Prabhupada says, as long as the mind is not conquered, it will follow the dictations of lust, anger, illusion, etc. And if the mind is conquered, it will follow the dictation of superior energy, which is Krishna. So this is how it happens. Because mind has to follow some dictation, and if the mind is not conquered, it is going to tell us about the lust, and if the lust is not satisfied, we will become angry, and then we go into illusion. So basically, it's very simple. If the mind has to follow some authority, mind has to follow some superior dictation, and if the mind is not controlled, it will follow the dictations of lust, anger, greed, envy, and illusion. So that's why Prabhupada quoted one verse from Amrita Bindu Upanishad. It says, I'll only read English. For man, mind is a cause of bondage and mind is a cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in sense objects is the cause of bondage, and mind detached from sense objects is the cause of liberation. Therefore, the mind which is always engaged in Krishna consciousness is the cause of supreme liberation. So, there can be only two things mind can do. Either it can be absorbed in sense gratification, or it can be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. It can be absorbed in the Maya, or it can be absorbed in Krishna. And so, if the mind is not conquered, it will be always absorbed in sense gratification. That we all know from our own experience. Nobody needs to explain this. But if the mind takes some superior authority, like authority of the spiritual master or authority of the Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, if mind tries to follow that authority, so mind will take that dictation also. So mind cannot decide its own path. It has to accept some authority. Either that authority is Maya or that authority is Krishna. So if the mind is not controlled, so Maya becomes that authority. So then we are attracted to sense gratification, lust, anger, greed, and all these byproducts. But if the mind abides by the instructions of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, or abides by the instructions of the spiritual master, then mind can be made to follow the instructions of Krishna and it can be controlled. So only thing we have to understand from here is, the mind is not independent. Mind has to follow something. Either the mind will follow Maya or the mind will follow Krishna. So our whole process of Krishna consciousness is to make mind follow Krishna. And if you don't follow the path of Krishna consciousness, by default the mind is following Maya anyways. Now, another point Krishna says, actually it's pretty interesting point. By Krishna consciousness we can control the mind. And if we cannot control the mind, our practice of Krishna consciousness is waste. So it's actually both ways. So Krishna consciousness is helping to control the mind, but if we are not able to control the mind, our practice of self-realization, it's actually a show only. So externally I am wearing a tilaka and neck bead and everything, and people will call you great devotee, prabhuji, you are so great and good, but internally we are engaged in self gratification. So that's what the position uncontrolled mind will take us, and our Krishna consciousness will not have any higher meaning, it will be just a show. Right? And at the same time, a sincere devotee, with the help of Krishna consciousness, can conquer the mind. So we'll see here the Krishna says, I'll again read the English only. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. This is my opinion. So Krishna says, whose mind is not controlled, self-realization is difficult work. And this everybody has a practical experience. See, sometimes we are not pure devotees yet, right? At least I am not. So sometimes we go up and down in Krishna consciousness. So when we are down in Krishna consciousness, we can realize how the very same Krishna consciousness, which I was so enthusiastic in my chanting, in my reading, in my preaching, in my service, suddenly becomes very difficult. I cannot chant my rounds properly. I cannot focus in reading Srila Prabhupada books. Activities are the same, but sometimes those activities are very enthusiastic, enlivening. It makes us happy, and sometimes it becomes a kind of a burden on us. That, oh Krishna, how can I finish my 16 rounds today? I'm not able to finish my rounds. So you see, so it's all because of sometimes the mind is in our control, and sometimes we are in the control of the mind. So the same process of Krishna consciousness, here Krishna says, self-realization is difficult work. So if we are seeing that our something is not going right with our sadhana, so it means that somehow we are given some lax to the mind. And actually mind has taken control. So actually we have to be psychoanalyst. So people say psychiatrist, right? So we have to be our own psychiatrist. At every moment we have to understand, is my thinking or acting or speaking is actually favorable for my Krishna consciousness or not? So sometimes so mind will go here and there. And after 10-15 minutes we will realize, oh, what I was thinking. Even after that, bring it back. So don't get depressed. So whenever we realize mind has gone for a ride, at that time bring it back. Sometimes in chanting we see, right? At least it happens to me also. We complete few rounds, even realizing that we have completed rounds. We just complete, oh Krishna, I have completed 3-4 rounds, I don't even know. Oh, so it means the mind has taken us somewhere and somehow we completed mechanically our rounds. So the idea is very simple, and the Krishna explains that. So whenever we realize that, right, that oh, mind has taken us for a ride, at a time bring it back under the control of the self. That's what Krishna will say in the next verse. So we have to very, very understand that. So by these experiences, like I'm not able to chant and I'm getting very angry with the devotees, it means that somewhere I've given lax to my mind and that has taken me down. So that's why I'm facing my difficulties in the Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not difficult. We make it difficult. That's the whole problem. Okay. So now we'll see what Krishna says about how to conquer the unconquerable mind. So everyone has understood how mind is the greatest enemy. Is there anyone in the world you think is greater than uncontrolled mind? Is there anyone or anything? No? Life after life it will keep us here. So we have to first realize who the enemy is. Then we can see how to fight the enemy. So here Krishna, in the previous verse we saw, Arjuna declares that it's very difficult to control the mind. So then in response to that verse, Krishna says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Asamshayam Mahabhahu, Mano Durni Graham Chalam, Abhyasena tu Kaunteya, Vairagrena cha Bhrayati. Lord Shri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. Now there are three things Krishna says here. Krishna addresses Arjuna as Mahabhahu, mighty armed Arjuna. Even that mighty armed Arjuna who can conquer Bhishma, Drona, Karna and all the warriors and the Kurus, he says that he cannot conquer the mind, even though he is a mighty armed. So that's a reference to calling Arjuna as mighty armed, that you are a mighty armed, so you should be able to do it, because you are Mahabhahu. And Krishna gives a solution. By suitable practice and by detachment, it can be done. It is not impossible to control the mind. It is possible by practice and by detachment. Now we'll see how actually Srila Prabhupada explains what is the meaning of this practice and how to achieve that detachment. So Prabhupada says in the purport, by the practice of Krishna consciousness, however, one engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord. The first and the foremost of such devotional engagements is hearing about Krishna. This is the very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. By detaching the mind from activities not devoted to the Lord, one can very easily learn Vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of mind in the spirit. This is practical because by hearing about Krishna, one becomes automatically attached to the Supreme Spirit. So here Srila Prabhupada gives the first solution to the problem of controlling the mind. Prabhupada says, by practicing Krishna consciousness, especially hearing about Krishna is a very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is saying. So hearing is the number one solution. Hearing about Krishna Katha from the authority is the number one first solution to control the mind. Now the key is, now the problem, we are hearing things from so many years, right? We attend Bhagavatam classes, we read Prabhupada books, but still my mind is still not controlled. Somewhat controlled here and there maybe, but still it's like uncontrolled enemy. So in this case, my spiritual master is a very nice example. So actually, when we hear from here and it goes out from here. That's what the biggest problem of here happens. We are hearing, so now for example, I am speaking and you are hearing. So after the class, hardly few points will be remembered. So what he said that, instead of hearing from here and letting it go out from here, it has to go inside here and go down here to the heart. So it's very, very important that whatever we are hearing, it has to go deep into our heart. So Krishna in the end of Bhagavad Gita, if you read, right, when in the conclusion, he says that have you heard this? Have you heard this entire conversation with attentive mind? Krishna is saying to Arjuna that how it is very important to hear with great attention. So just hearing is not a solution. Hearing with great attention, Krishna Katha. So just close this ear and let whatever we are hearing go inside the heart. Now here we see in Brahma Samhita say Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. So it's a Prem Anjana. Anjana means ointment. Ointment we take through eyes, right? Now you see, right, Prabhupada was, before starting Krishna consciousness, what was Prabhupada's business? Yeah, he was pharmacist. So he was selling ointment at that time. To put into eyes. Now when he started the Krishna conscious movement, did he change his business? No, he was still a pharmacist. But now instead of giving the ointment which we take through eyes, he gave an ointment which we take through ears. Right? So that's what Prabhupada did. The business stayed the same. Only this ointment of Krishna consciousness, this Premanjana, which is mentioned in Brahma Samhita, we actually take it through ears. And if we take in that spirit of Krishna consciousness, trying to learn about Krishna, trying to understand about devotees of Krishna, and take pleasure in Krishna, so it automatically happens that the minds become attached to Krishna. And the mind is attached to Krishna, we saw, so then the mind will follow the dictation of Krishna and it won't follow the dictation of the sense gratification. So we see, it's actually very, very easy to control the mind. There is no exercise or some pranayam or some here and there standing in the sun or taking bath in the 3 o'clock in the night we have to do to control the mind. We only have to hear Krishna Katha with rapt attention. So what Krishna says to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, have you heard this conversation with rapt attention? And the reason Krishna says, if there was some point which Arjuna did not understood in the Bhagavad Gita, he was at that time he was ready to explain the whole Bhagavad Gita starting from again. So, and here we see, in many places we see in Bhagavatam, are you hearing this conversation with a rapt attention or not? So this attention in hearing Krishna Katha is very very important. No mobile, say किसी ने WhatsApp किया होगा देख लेता हूँ. So while hearing Krishna Katha, it's only Krishna Katha and nothing else. So that small hearing will actually attach us to Krishna. And here Krishna says, if we attach ourselves to the Krishna, then one thing will happen, mind will not get attached to sense gratification. And second thing there, Krishna says here, practice and detachment. So detachment will come automatically. So we only have to focus on practice. If we focus on practice, so detachment automatically follows. So we don't have to practice. We have to practice detachment or vairagya like the impersonalists do, that I have to be detached. I will be detached from this. No, we don't have to do all this. Only thing required is hear the instruction of Krishna from the ear and take it deep into the heart. And then then here the Prabhupada says, the more one hears about the Krishna, so I think it's another thing. So this point is understood about the process of hearing. So just hearing Krishna Katha won't help. Hearing Krishna Katha and taking it deep into the heart will help the mind to, it will do Cheto Darpana Marjanam. It will actually purge the mind of all the misgivings. So that's why so much importance is placed on hearing. So Srila Prabhupada has so expertly written all the purports. It so amazes, right? We keep on reading Bhagavad Gita again and again, and every time from the purports we get more and more realization. Actually, when the first time I started reading Bhagavad Gita long back, I didn't understand any purport. It was so difficult for me to understand the purports. But now when Krishna says, I can at least something I can understand from the purports. So here Srila Prabhupada again says in the same purport, by discharge of devotional service, one feels transcendental satisfaction as the mind becomes detached from material objectives. It is something like curing a disease by expert treatment and appropriate diet. These are Prabhupada's words. Hearing of the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is therefore the expert treatment for the mad mind, and eating the foodstuffs offered to Krishna is the appropriate diet for the suffering patient. This treatment is the process of Krishna consciousness. So once we acknowledge that we are in a disease condition, so if anybody is deceased in the hospital, right, so two things are done. He is being treated with medicines, and second thing is diet has been taken care of. So two things the patient has to do. Now Prabhupada has applied that in Krishna consciousness. Hearing of the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is the expert treatment for the mad mind, and eating Krishna prasadam is the appropriate diet for the suffering patients. So two things, hearing Krishna Katha from the right sources with the great attention is a treatment for the mad mind, and at the same time just only eating Krishna prasadam is actually a diet for the suffering patient. So if we sincerely take this treatment, so we will be cured of our disease. So therefore one must control the mind by engaging it constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. So this is a very very important point. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. So we see this from the example of Vishwamitra, right? He was such a great yogi, but just the sound bells of the main car, from the sounds on the ankle bells of the main car, actually distracted Vishwamitra, and he actually gave up his practice of yoga. See, his mind is so powerful, right? So here is this. Do you think he was not able to control the mind? But here Prabhupada says, unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. So though the yogis may control the mind to some extent, but it's actually not possible to control the mind by artificial means. Now, we have seen mind is very very powerful. So unless we actually have mind to follow the superior dictation in Krishna consciousness, mind will always drag us to follow the inferior dictations. So that's why we have to always make sure, as a psychoanalyst, that whether the mind is following a dictation of a superior authority or mind is following a dictation of inferior authority. If we realize it's following a dictation of inferior authority, step back. Step back. And here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again says, in the same purport, these purports are really amazing. The easiest way to control the mind, as suggested by Lord Chaitanya, is chanting Hare Krishna, the great mantra for deliverance in all humility. Now the key is, we are chanting Hare Krishna for so many years, nothing is happening. Prabhupada added in all humility. That is the key. So that part is missing. We are chanting Hare Krishna, most of the time is a ritual that I have to finish my rounds. But here Prabhupada says, you have to chant Hare Krishna in all humility. Right? Like we have to chant Hare Krishna like a child is crying for the mother. Assume you take a small baby away from the mother, right? And in a crowd. What will be the position of child? He or she will become restless. Ma, where is my mother? Where is my mother? So unless we develop that urgency in our chanting to cry for Krishna, in our chanting, our chanting will not bear fruit. So we have to understand that we have to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra like a child is crying for his mother. So that will actually effectively help us. And we know that Turanapi Sunishena, Tarorapi Sahishnuna, Amarina Marjana, Kirtaniya Sadahari. So this is the Sikshashtaka, right? So I should be humble than the grass, humble the blade of grass, and is more tolerant than the tree. In this condition, I can constantly chant the name of Krishna. So this verse of Shishtashtaka, we should actually wear like our Kantimala. So actually this, my spiritual master told about this verse, that I always start my chanting after I chant this verse, in this mood. Prunadapi Sunichina, Tarorapi Sahishnuna, Amarina Marnina, Kirtane Sadari. Then Jai Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shiva Siddhi Gaur Nityananda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So just chanting this Shishtashtaka verse, before starting our actual rounds, try it out. It makes a lot of difference. Prunadapi Sunishina, and not just chant that verse, just meditate on it. Prunadapi Sunishina, Tarorapi Sahishnuna, Amanina Maridena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. Only in this condition, when we are humbler than the grass and more tolerant than the tree, we can chant the holy name of Krishna. Other than that, we cannot. It will be routine or mechanical chanting. It won't bear any fruit. Now one of the important tricks my spiritual master gives to everyone. Everybody asks question, right? I am chanting my rounds, but my mind is not. My mind is going here and there. Is it true with anybody, or is there someone in the room who can chant 16 rounds with rapt attention? Is there anyone? No? Yeah. So we are chanting our rounds, and most of the time mind goes here and there, right? So this is a very, very common question asked. How do I bring my mind in control during my chanting japa? So see, the key is this. If we put all our energy in our chanting, in our japa, so it becomes very easy to practice Krishna consciousness in the rest of the day. But if your japa is actually messed up, then your Krishna consciousness is very difficult for the rest of the day. So put all your energy, especially in the morning time, before we start any other morning activity. If we can complete our japa in peace, with attention and with sincerity, then we can see from our own experience that my upcoming Krishna consciousness activities becomes very easy. Otherwise, if my mind is just running here and there during my japa period, then my Krishna consciousness for the day becomes very difficult. It's a very practical experience. Everybody can experience that, and I have also experienced it. So here, Srila Gurudev says this verse all the time. Yato yato anishchalati manas chanchala mayaskaram tatastato niyam yetar atmanyeva vasham nayet. And the translation goes, from wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. So whenever during the chanting, the mind goes here and there, and as soon as you realize that the mind has gone to some travel here and there, so just bring it back at that time. So by this practice of bringing back mind under the control during chanting, slowly, we will become more expert in this bringing back practice. Initially, you might be able to bring back 1 or 2 times, but slowly, if we just have at least realization that, oh, my mind is going for a ride, so let me bring it back to the japa, and then again, and then chant my japa. So just by practicing, just by this practice of bringing the mind under the bringing the mind back to the japa, whenever it has gone away from the japa, slowly and slowly we will become expert in this practice and the mind will stay in the japa for a very long time. So, abhi kya hoga? Initially what will happen? So one round I chant nicely. Second, third, fourth round I was somewhere here and there. So then I realized, so 2-3 rounds have gone and my mind was just thinking about here and there. So bring it back. At least my 5th round will be nice. Okay, then 6th round again it will go back here and there. Bring it, 7th will be nice. Then after some time, first round will be nice, second round half will be bad, half will be nice. It will happen like this. So by this practice of bringing back the mind back to the japa, if we realize the mind has gone out, just bring it back instead of thinking, what to do, my mind is going here and there. No, Krishna says, from wherever the mind wanders, due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. If we can just follow this instruction during our japa period, it will actually help us to focus on japa very nicely, and the end result will be we will be able to do our all Krishna conscious activities for the day very, very nicely. So just remember 626. And if you can just bring the mind back to the japa, as soon as you have realized that the mind has gone for a ride, don't worry, initially it takes it difficult, but just by practice, practice makes the mind perfect, right? Even if a job, even if a household activity like cooking, right? Say if somebody is learning to cook chapati, at least for months, chapati will go bad, but eventually the round chapatis will come, right? Practice will actually make that chapatis go round, right? So in this case, the practice of bringing the mind back to the japa will actually very, very improve the quality of japa. But the thing is, we have to try to finish our japa in the morning hours. So we can't do the japa in the bus or in the train or when the kids are woken up and they're screaming and crying. And so that is not the right time. So all that time we can do extra rounds, but not japa. So 16 rounds have to be done before, in the Brahma Muhurta period, before I think we start our daily activities. So otherwise, if we are doing our japa in the bus, how can we bring the mind under the control, right? Even if you think about this verse, it's not possible. At home, it's possible in silence. So 626 is a very, very important instruction given by Krishna, how to focus on japa. So now, in this verse, there are a few more points explained, like how to focus the. One more point which Prabhupada explains in the today's purport is neglect. So neglect the demands of the mind. But in practice, right, neglecting the demands of mind is very difficult. Though we can say, I can neglect the mind. My mind is asking me to see some television. No, I just neglect it. But if we brood on that demand, right, mind was saying me this, mind was saying me that, we'll eventually do that activity. So neglect is point we have to think that we have to neglect as soon as the demand comes. Only then neglect will be effective. But if you are just constantly brooding on that demand, right, then there is no neglect. Then you will go and end up watch TV or do anything whatever you want to do. So we have to understand, as soon as some demands which is other than Krishna consciousness spring in the mind, right, we have to just curb it then and there itself. Then it will be easier to control. Otherwise, if you just think of that, right, so Krishna says, Dhyayate Vishyan Pumso. Dhyayate. So first thing is contemplation. See, if we are contemplating on the sense objects, then the next step happens, like lust, anger, greed, everything happens. But if you realize that I have started contemplation and I just kill that contemplation then and there itself, then it becomes very easy to control the mind. And again, there are two more points here Prabhupada gives. So what to do with the mind, right? See, sometimes the child is very naughty, what do we do? Okay, and sometimes we beat the child also, right? Now we don't beat it anymore, so our parents have beaten us at least. So whenever we were naughty, our parents used to beat us. Okay, so that's what here Srila Prabhupada is saying. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj actually used to say, so we have to beat the mind with the shoes and the broom in the morning and the evening and throughout the day. That is the position of the mind. Only then the mind can be conquered. And there is one more method. So there are two ways to conquer the mind, right? Say, if you have to control a child, he is very naughty, right? say it again, he's somebody in the Bhagavatam class and he's very crying or shouting and he's causing disturbance. So what will the first play? Maybe give him some biscuit, right? And then he will be silent. So that way is also, so we have, that is Bhajahure Mana Srinanda Nandana Abhaya Charanar Vindir. My dear mind, please give up your nonsense and absorb yourself in the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna. My dear mind. So try like this, my dear mind, Bhajahure Mana. That's a very, very nice prayer. If you can remember that prayer, Bhajahure Mana Srinanda Nandana Abhaya Charanar Vindare Durlabha Manava Bhajahu Satsange Tarahui Bhava Sindhure. So this is actually a very nice prayer. So my spiritual master told me to memorize this prayer to control the mind. So if you can just recite this prayer, it will really help to conquer the mind. And if this pleasing method doesn't work, then we use Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's method. Beat the mind. So if the biscuit doesn't work, then we know what needs to be done. So there are various methods to control the mind. But the most important, if you remember during japa period, if you can bring the mind under the control of the self, that will actually improve the quality of japa. And if you can improve our quality of japa, mind will automatically stay controlled for the rest of the day. So 26 is a very, very important verse. Now, having said all that, so here in this verse, there is a very, very important point which is mentioned about controlling the mind. And it's not just about controlling the mind, it's about becoming perfect in the process of Krishna consciousness and go back to God, to become a pure devotee. See, controlling the mind is a very important step in our journey of becoming pure devotee. So this process which is mentioned in this verse will not only help to control the mind, but it will also actually take us to the final goal. And that is the third line of the verse which says, Gurur Haresh Charano Upasana Astra. So Gurur Haresh Charano Upasana Astra. Gurur means spiritual master, Haresh means Krishna, Charan means lotus feet, Upasana means worship, Astra means weapon. By the weapon of service to the lotus feet of spiritual master and Krishna, the mind can be controlled. And not only the mind can be controlled, we can actually achieve the perfection of Krishna consciousness. So we have still few minutes, so we'll just try to wrap it up. Now we'll see about Guru Charish Charano Upasanastra, about the position of the spiritual master. So this is the most important aspect of our Krishna consciousness. If we can think that I can progress in my Krishna consciousness bypassing my spiritual master, then forget it. It's not possible. So unless we think that I am the most fallen servant of my spiritual master and he's my spiritual master for all of eternity and I am his servant for all of eternity, unless we have this mood in Krishna consciousness, we cannot make any progress in Krishna consciousness. So if we think that I have become more learned than my spiritual master, then we are on the wrong track. So this is a very, very important point to understand in Krishna consciousness, that Guru actually holds a position equal to Krishna. So Guru is not inferior to Krishna. It is said that Guru is the external manifestation of Krishna. So it is very, very important in our Krishna consciousness to have an utmost regard for spiritual master, especially in following his instructions. And how do you regard the spiritual master? Not just by externally paying obeisances and all, but actually very sincerely following the instructions of the spiritual master. That's how we actually become obedient to the spiritual master. It is actually said that we have to, the instructions of the spiritual master are our life and soul. So for a devotee, there is nothing in Krishna consciousness than following the instructions of spiritual master. There is nothing beyond that. So we have to understand this point, that we should never forget the instructions given to us by our spiritual master, and we have to be utmost sincerity, with utmost attention we have to follow those instructions. And whole problem is solved. Whole problem of uncontrolled mind, devotee relationship, family problems, this problem, that problem, everything is solved. So we will see first the position of the spiritual master. So in Bhagavatam, Krishna says to Uddhava, Acharya ma vijaniyan, nama manyeta karhichit, na marti buddhi suyeta, sarvadeva mayo guru. One should know the Acharya as myself and never disrespect him in any way. One should not envy him, thinking him an ordinary man. for his representative of all the demigods. So this is what Krishna's instructions to Uddhava. He is saying that one should know the Acharya as myself. Krishna is saying there is no difference between Acharya and myself. So that does not mean that the Acharya is Krishna. So we have to understand the difference here. Acharya or spiritual master is actually given the same position and the same respect as Krishna, but spiritual master is not Krishna. Spiritual master is servant of Krishna, but he's given the same respect and same position as Krishna. And here one more important point is, so it's in the Sanskrit say Guru Naramati. So we should not think spiritual master as an ordinary man. See, sometimes this happens, especially with the personal servants, when they are associating with the spiritual master. So they see he's also behaving like a common man like me. Right? So that becomes a Guru Aparad. So we have to never judge the activities of the spiritual master. That's another point. So never ever judge the activities of the spiritual master. It is said Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra with Nihana Bhujya. Even activities of the Vaishnava cannot be understood even by the most learned man. So what is our position? We are still the beginners, right? So we cannot understand the activities of our spiritual master. So the better is we just follow the instructions and not try to judge it in any way. Like, oh, why my master is doing this, why it is that and that. So sometimes becoming a personal servant, it requires an utmost care. The spiritual master represents Supreme Personality of Godhead Shri Krishna. Therefore, we offer worship to the spiritual master in a manner akin to our worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's what we do. We do Gurvashtakam, we do Guru Puja. In our morning program, two most important prayers are Gurvashtakam and Guru Puja. And actually both are worship of the spiritual master. But if you can take them in the heart, then we can easily understand the position of the spiritual master. Now Krishna says, so this is actually very, very common problem happens with all the neophyte devotees, that especially the common man outside, right? I don't want to take any spiritual master. I can become direct devotee of Krishna. Arjuna also became direct devotee of Krishna, so I can also become direct devotee of Krishna. I don't need any spiritual master. But Krishna says in Adi Puran to Arjuna, Ye me bhakta jana partha, na me bhaktas chame jana, mat bhaktanam chaye bhaktas, te me bhakta tamamata. Those who are my direct devotees are actually not my devotees, but those who are devotees of my devotees are actually my devotees. So we have to understand that though Arjuna's spiritual master was Krishna, but in the same Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said to Arjuna, Tat viddhi pranipatena pariprashnena seveya upadekshyanti tenyanem jnaninas tattvadarshina. Just try to learn the truth by approaching the spiritual master, offer services to him, offer obeisance to him. He will explain the truth unto you because he has seen the truth. So if you say that I don't need spiritual master and I can follow Bhagavad Gita, then we have to follow this instruction of Krishna as well to take a spiritual master. So I cannot take half instructions, right? I cannot take that this instruction I like, this I take, this I don't like, I won't take. If we have to take instructions of Krishna, we have to take all the instructions as it is. And obviously we say this, Yasya prasada, dhamma prasado, Yasya prasada nagati kutubi. By satisfaction of the spiritual master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes satisfied, and by not satisfying the spiritual master, there is no chance of being promoted to the plane of Krishna consciousness. So the Gurvashtakam prayers are very, very important. So if you can just meditate on those prayers and Guru Puja prayers, it actually automatically brings reverence to the spiritual master automatically. But just reverence, actual reverence is shown by following the instructions. Say for example, the basic instructions that everybody gets it, follow 16 rounds, chant 16 rounds, and follow 4 regulative principles. Basic instructions, right, at the time of initiation. And other than that, individual devotees may get other instructions based on their capacities. But if I'm not able to chant 16 rounds and if I'm not able to follow 4 regulative principles, then basically there is no obedience to the spiritual master. So that has become Guru Aparad. So that is one of the offenses is chanting. See, what is the third offense? Neglect the order of the spiritual master. So we cannot develop a taste in the chanting also if we neglect the order of the spiritual master. So if we break any regulative principles, so we can't actually get a taste in the chanting, and eventually we'll give up Krishna consciousness. So these basic things we have to be very, very careful. So Prabhupada said in the translation, we should do this with great care. That great care is very, very important. It's not difficult. It just needs some practice, some attention, that's all. So we see some verses as the why the spiritual masters exhorted fruition and explain why we worship the spiritual master on par with Krishna. Yeah. So we have to finish the class. So we'll just take. So now there is a very important verse which will come in the next chapter, which is again the same about the instructions of Jada Bharata to Maharaj Ragona about the position of the spiritual master. So I'll only read the English because we don't have time. So here it says, my dear King Ravana, unless one has the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotees, one cannot realize the absolute truth. One cannot realize the absolute truth simply by observing brahmacharya or strictly following the rules and regulations of householder life, leaving home as vanaprastha and accepting sannyas, or undergoing severe penances in winter by keeping oneself submerged in water, or surrounding oneself in summer by the fire and the scorching heat of sun. There are many other processes to understand the absolute truth, but the absolute truth is only revealed to one who has attained the mercy of the great devotee. So this is the sum and substance of the process of Krishna consciousness. So unless we can please a great devotee like Srila Prabhupada and the spiritual master, so there is no chance of progressing in Krishna consciousness. Here he has given so many processes like and following the rules and regulations of Grihastha life, accepting vanaprastha or sannyasa, or doing some tapasya or austerities. They are all meaningless if we are not following the instructions of our spiritual master. So this is what we have to understand. And if we follow the instructions of the spiritual master, we don't have to do anything else. So sincerity in Krishna consciousness, as per the humility. The humility, sincerity in Krishna consciousness is a very important quality. It will actually help us to take progress in Krishna consciousness. So if you are sincere in your practice, Mataji, can the child go outside? Thank you. Actually, regarding this, so once what happened, Srila Prabhupada was giving a class. And obviously after the class there is a feast, right? So devotees are busy in kitchen also, chopping vegetables and all. So Prabhupada can hear, chop, chop, chop. So Prabhupada said, what is this sound happening? So this is Bhagavatam time, no sound. So though I am not in that position, but that was creating a lot of disturbance, I had to say. So here we see that unless we have the opportunity to smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet of great devotee, one cannot realize the absolute truth, no matter what other processes we do. Now, smear his entire body with the dust of the lotus feet. So there are two things. So dust of the lotus feet, right? So if we get a chance, okay, we just wait for this distraction to finish. So smearing the dust of the lotus feet of the great devotee on the entire body. So we can do it literally also. So if you get a chance, you can just smear the dust from the lotus feet of the spiritual master on our body. Right? That is also there. It is not just a figurative meaning. That has to be literally. It has to be literally also. So for example, if you see the shoes of your spiritual master, just put it on your head. But the most is the way to take a dust of the lotus feet of spiritual master onto our head is by sincerely following his instruction. That is the real meaning. But we have to take the literal meaning also. So if you are getting the opportunity to smear a dust of a great devotee on your body, just do it. So don't let go of that opportunity. So this is the last slide. So now, though we are very fortunate that in ISKCON, the process to understand a bona fide guru has become very simple. So we don't have to do so much research to understand who is a bona fide guru, who is not a bona fide guru, right? But at least we have to understand, we see many gurus in the market outside, right? I am guru, he is guru, that is guru, he is this guru of this organization, this society. So now who is a bona fide guru? There are so many gurus out there, especially for the neophytes, it becomes very confusing sometimes. Why I choose only a Vaishnava guru in ISKCON, and what about all the other gurus that are in the marketplace advertising as a guru? So these are some of the qualifications which I extracted from few Bhagavatam verses. So this is very famous verse. Kiva Vipra Kivanyasi Shudra Kenenaya Yei Krishna Tattva Vekta Sai Guru Haya. So whether one is a Brahmana, Sannyasi or a Shudra, regardless of what he is, he can become a spiritual master if he knows the science of Krishna. So the first and the foremost thing is he should know the science of Krishna. If a guru says that I am God, you are God, everyone else is God, so first point itself reject there itself, right? So it especially happened in the West in the early days. Many gurus, they went from India to US and the European countries, and no, I am not God, you are all God. So I am very humble. The guru he used to say like that, many gurus, but you are all God. So but here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kiva Vipra Kiva Nyasi Shudra Kenenaya Jai Krishna Tattva Vekta Sai Guru Bhaya. Whoever knows the science of Krishna can become a guru. It actually does not matter if he is a son of the maid servant, right? If a maid servant is coming to our home and his son knows the science of Krishna, he is a spiritual master. So Narada Muni was the son of a maid servant only. So if you read that pastime in the first canto, that is very, very instructive for all the devotees to read that pastime of how actually Narada Muni became this great exalted devotee which he is now from the previous life. He was a maid servant of, he was the son of a maid servant, and just by serving few great Vaishnava Mahajanas, he became such an exalted devotee. And that whole pastime is mentioned in the first canto, in the beginning, and that's very, very ecstatic if you want to. It's so much learning is there. So if we can even do some slide of that, right, our life will become successful. So, and yeah, if we see the last bullet, he has heard about Krishna from the authorities of Guru Parampara. He follows the previous acharyas, not self-made. This is another important point. A bona fide guru is always in a parampara, always in a Guru Parampara. A bona fide guru is never a self-made guru. So this is a very, very common thing nowadays. So on this point, most of the guru's outlets can be rejected. So if a guru is a self-made, he is not a guru at all. He has to be in a disciplic succession. See, the knowledge of Krishna consciousness is coming from Lord Krishna to Brahma, Brahma to Narada, Narada to Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva to Madhvacharya. So this fruit of Krishna consciousness is handed down from guru to disciple in a chain, very, very carefully. So unless the guru was a disciple who has taken this fruit from his guru, he cannot pass that fruit down. So this fruit of Krishna consciousness which is coming from Krishna, it is actually very, very carefully preserved and passed on in parampara. So if someone goes out of parampara, so he actually does not get access to that fruit from Krishna. So whatever he preaches has no meaning then. So this is a very, very important point you have to understand. To take the fruit of Krishna consciousness, he has to be in a proper disciplic succession. So that's why we accept gurus in the Vaishnava parampara, a proper guru parampara. So this is a very, very important point. In Kali Yuga, almost everybody outside is a guru. So we have to be very, very careful, especially the neophyte devotees, right? And he does not accept disciples for money, and he must be able to deliver his disciples back home, back to God. This is a very, very important point. See, we know this spiritual master has this, so it means that the spiritual master is actually an Uttama Adhikari. So this is also an important point. We cannot accept anyone and everyone as a guru. He has to be an Uttama Adhikari, right? So because only a Uttama Adhikari can actually deliver us back home, back to God, if he sincerely follows the instructions. And he presents himself as a servant of God and not God. So this is a very point we know, right? Everybody says spiritual master is a servant of God. He doesn't say that I am a God. So bona fide spiritual masters are great personalities who have taken shelter of the Supreme Godhead, leaving aside all material considerations. So this is again an important point. So basically, from some of these points, we can actually understand how to actually know that a person is a bona fide guru or one is a charlatan. See, we have to be very, very careful. It is said that if one wants to be cheated, Krishna will send a cheater, so we can get cheated. But if we are sincere, if we want to progress in Krishna consciousness, Krishna will send a bona fide guru also. So let us not try to cheat ourselves. So let us sincerely aspire for the practice of Krishna consciousness. And who is my guru? When will he come? Whom should I expect? It will automatically taken care of. But once we take initiation, after initiation, I can't say that now I will practice to follow regulative principles. No, that happens before initiation. After initiation means once you take a vow in front of the Guru, Krishna in the fire, it means that I am no pakka. I cannot break my vows. So that process is initial process before initiation where I am still trying to follow the regulative principles. I cannot say that okay, after initiation I will try to follow. There is no trying after initiation, there is following only. Okay, so we'll end the class. So, okay, I think it's a lot of... So, I think just one thing I'll say about what inspired Srila Prabhupada to take up Krishna consciousness so seriously and following the instructions of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj so seriously. So, this is mentioned in the book called Surrender Unto Me by Bhurijana Prabhu, which is a very nice guide to help us understand Bhagavad Gita. So if you are not able to follow Bhagavad Gita as it is, so please take the Surrender Unto Me book. It will very greatly help in our study. So there is a verse called Vyavsaya Atmika Buddhir Eke Kuru Nandana Bhaushakai Anantasha Buddhayo Vyavsayina. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. Oh beloved child of Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. Now, it is mentioned in the book Surrender Unto Me. In the context of this verse, Srila Prabhupada once told his disciples that in 1950s, before he spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world, he read the commentary on this verse by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He said that he was struck by the commentary that further fixed him in his resolve to follow Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's order to preach Krishna consciousness in English. Now, what was that commentary by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur? So, please only read the... okay, we'll read. So, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, of all kinds of intelligence, the best is intelligence focused on Bhakti Yoga. In Bhakti Yoga, one's intelligence becomes single-pointed or fixed in determination. Now you read what he says now. The instruction of my spiritual master to worship the personality of Godhead by chanting, remembering, serving his feet, and so on are my only sadhana, my only sadhya, my only livelihood. I am incapable of giving up these instructions either in the stage of practice or in the stage of perfection. They alone are my object of desire and my only responsibility. Besides them, I can desire no other responsibility, not even in my dreams. It is all same to me whether I feel happy or unhappy or whether my material existence is eradicated or not. So this is what it means by what it means to follow the instructions of spiritual master. So last bullet, it is all same to me whether I am happy or not, or whether I go back to Godhead or not. They are alone are my object of desire and my only responsibility. Even in my dreams, I cannot think of anything else. So this is what it means by completely becoming a sold out servant of my spiritual master. So as we can see again that how important it is to become completely sold out servant of spiritual master, and that verse commentary by Srila Vishwanath Thakur can greatly help us to understand what does it mean actually. So we can at least eating, sleeping, morning, evening, I have that instruction in my mind all the time going around. So finally we conclude. So this is the key line from the today's verse again. Gurur Haresh Charano Pasanastra. Conquer this mind by the weapon of service to the lotus feet of spiritual master. And if we do proper service to the lotus feet of spiritual master, then the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is automatically done. Hare Krishna. So are there any questions? We don't have time. So I'm sorry I didn't take longer. It's 11:15 is already. I'm sorry, Prabhuji. So we take just one question. Only one. Yes.
Prabhuji, thank you for the nice talk. I understood little bit, and one doubt I got in my mind. Mind always works on the likes and dislikes.
Yes.
And whatever the things I'm liking, mind brings so many proposals. At that time, intelligence defeats.
Yes,
So-
that's a very, very good point. Now I understand your question. So, I didn't say that verse, we'll again go back to the previous thing. So, Prabhuji's point is, yeah. So Prabhuji is saying the mind actually brings so many proposals. Right? Okay, you can do this, you can do that, and it's actually pretty nice. Like that samosa and gulab jamun on the shop is right, it's really good. एक हाथ का चलता है, right? Mind will give so many proposals, and if you no, next shop, oh, one more samosa. Now I have to take it. See, Krishna is giving me hint. You should eat that samosa. So that's what we learned. So mind can overcome intelligence. So how to sharpen the intelligence? So that is called Shastra Chakshus. We can only sharpen the intelligence by focusing our intelligence. It's called scripture, by seeing through the eyes of the scriptures. So intelligence is two types: material intelligence and the spiritual intelligence. So when the mind actually overcomes the intelligence and you actually end up doing that thing, so then mind has overcome the material intelligence, because I have not strengthened my intelligence through scriptures. So I have to always see through the scriptures. I have to sharpen my intelligence through Shastra Chakshus, seeing through the eyes of scriptures. So that's it. If you read this purport here Krishna says in 343 solution, thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind and intelligence, O mighty Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So we have to become a very, very expert readers of Srila Prabhupada books. Unless we have a daily routine of reading Srila Prabhupada books regularly for a fixed, just like we chant 16 rounds daily, so not to say in one day 5 minutes and another 1 hour, one day 5 minutes, at least whatever time if you can allocate daily, if you are strictly reading Srila Prabhupada books, so that is sharpening the intelligence. Then the mind will not overcome the intelligence. So we have to sharpen the intelligence through the scriptures, by seeing through the scriptures, by seeing through the eyes of Srila Prabhupada books. So if we can include our sadhana, daily reading of Srila Prabhupada books, not weekly, okay, not bi-weekly, daily reading of Srila Prabhupada books, equally important as our chanting of 16 rounds, then that's like we are sharpening the knife. And then mind won't say that I have to eat that. Even the mind says I have to eat that gulab jamun or samosa. No, I'll go to the temple, and in the temple there will be very nice feast. I'll eat there. So that is a spiritual intelligence. Where Prabhupada says here, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy. So if you start reading Srila Prabhupada books, regularly as a routine and systematically, book by book, not just randomly, today I want to read this, today I want to read that, have a plan, have a routine, and just stick to it, and then the intelligence will become strong and it will be very easy to conquer the mind. Okay, so we'll stop here. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. So once again, we'd like to give heartfelt thanks to His Grace Amal Puran Prabhuji, and all of us know that one very small realization which I get whenever Prabhuji shares the session with us is that when we go through books, we just skim through the paragraphs of Srila Prabhupada. But how Prabhuji slice and dice, and each one line by line, paragraph by paragraph, he contemplates and shares with us the nectar. It takes a lot of hard work. I believe it's not easy to prepare, come and share. So And again, it takes what do you call it? It takes intelligent person to overcome